Usually a patient will come to me with more ease if their trusted ortho PT has already given them an idea of what pelvic PT can entail and framed in a positive way.
Yeah.
Then the patient's like excited to see
Yeah.
a pelvic PT versus being referred when the clinician is like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I don't want to do what they're doing, so I'm going to send it to you. You know what I mean?
I don't know what's going on over there. I'm going to send you there, but I don't know what they're doing over there.
Like,
I don't know.
No.
Yeah. It's like, no, don't tell them that. You're scaring them.
Yeah.
It's not scary.
Right.
It's not scary. Hi, guys. I'm Andrew. I'm going to be hosting today's episode of Towel Talk, and I have Catrina with me. She's going to be helping us fold towels, and we're going to be talking a little bit about pelvic floor health and women's health as well, and a little bit more PT questions that you guys may have. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
So before we start, how do you fold your towels? That's kind of what I was
Exactly
wondering.
like this.
Just because I seem to fold them differently each time. And it seems to bother people a little bit, but I have my little, it's just however it just happens. It just happens.
You need consistency,
Yeah,
and you
it
need
just
all the
happens.
corners to line up.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do as a physical therapist, because I know that you specialize in certain areas that a lot of people are not 100% like, they just don't know a lot about. And so go ahead and give us a little bit of a background on what you do and what led you to that part of the field.
All right. So
Yeah.
yes, I am a pelvic health physical therapist. Pelvic health is a specialty of physical therapy, and pelvic health physical therapists help people with all things pelvic floor function. That includes bowel function, bladder function, and sexual function. And this also includes the abdomen. So any surgery that can happen in this area, any pains, sports hernias, postpartum population, that is all well under our specialty. So that is how I am using my PT brain.
Nice.
Day in and day out. And how I got here was because I was hearing women at gyms when I was a physical therapy student express how they couldn't do certain movements like jump rope or jumping jacks because they kept leaking. And then I learned, physical therapists can actually help people like that. And that was the little drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
From there came a lot of observing physical therapists in pelvic health and then listening to pelvic health PTs speak. And
Nice.
finally, taking the dive, got a clinical internship in it, and then never looked back.
Nice. That's cool. So what is something that you think is, something that people don't understand about pelvic floor or pelvic health? I know one thing that I've heard in the past is I think sometimes people don't realize that men can benefit from pelvic floor therapy or taking better care of their pelvic health. And so what are some other like misconceptions that you've run into?
Yeah, that's a good one because everyone does have a pelvic floor and everyone does have bowel, bladder, and sexual functions. So men can definitely benefit from pelvic health PT, but some other misconceptions would be that pelvic health PT is just Kegels and learning how to contract the pelvic floor muscles, which that's what a Kegel is, but it's far beyond that. Yeah. Another misconception is that we will have our fingers stuck up in the vaginal or anal canal the whole visit, which that is also not true. And
That's
so
good to know. Good to let the people know.
Right. Like there's so much more to pelvic health PT than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what's something that you found, I guess, from other PTs that maybe not be as well equipped to handle those type of cases, what are some things that you try to tell them, or some tips that you give them as far as what to look for, when to refer out, things like that?
Yeah. So if a patient has a good relationship with their PT, they probably can talk about bowel, bladder, and sexual function. It's just that a patient's probably going to wait for the provider to bring it up. So often, like, a patient will never just outright say, come in for their knee and be like, I leaked today. Like,
Yeah.
so it's really up to the provider to screen them. And just about 50% of people with low back pain have pelvic floor dysfunction. Yes. And so that's, we have, right? People have probably missed pelvic floor dysfunction because many of our patients have back pain.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of screening and then knowing who to refer to in the community.
Yeah.
Just 2 steps.
Yeah.
Ask, if there are any bowel, bladder, or sexual changes the patient has noticed, or if there's anything about their bowel, bladder, or sexual function that bothers them, and that's a good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, the screening is definitely something that I feel can be tricky at times. Like you said, if people are usually not coming in and just disclosing that right away. There are some cases where in an eval, you may get the history and you're starting to notice like, oh, okay, we may want to get you in with someone that specializes in pelvic health. And then there are times where I've worked with folks that have low back pain and it seems like we've done just about everything.
Right.
And I'm like, something is just not connecting here. And then that's when I'll start thinking, okay, maybe we need to refer you over to someone else that can do a little bit more digging, or just they have the tools necessary to be able to help you out. So trying to, I think for me, get to that point a little bit faster is what I try to work on. It's like not letting it get to the point of like, okay, we tried this, 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 we tried this.
Right.
Now let's try,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
because an ortho PT and a pelvic health PT, or any PT and a pelvic health PT, can make a really good team for the patient.
yeah.
And that will only increase your or the referring provider's efficiency and getting them better. So, yeah, catching things faster. Intake forms are great
Yeah.
to include those questions if someone is not comfortable with bringing them up themselves as the clinician.
Because that's something that I do notice too, is people go, well, actually,
Right.
I did notice a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, something happened. And so sometimes just they're not really like, boom, like right away, just because they're probably nervous. One, they don't know what's going to happen in PT. They might be their first time there. They're dealing with pain. And so, getting the intake form, and I guess just kind of like what you're saying, just keep putting it in, in their face a little bit. Do the intake form, ask them about it, continue making it a pretty normalized, I guess.
Right. It is, right? It's medical. So I will tell you this too, that men are statistically less likely to seek care for healthcare in general, and especially their pelvic floor health, because what man wants to talk about them leaking after a prostate surgery, or tell a provider that their junk down there isn't working well. Like that's manlyhood for a lot of men, and like, why would they offer that information? But an indirect way of bringing it up could be helpful. Like, oh, I was talking to my colleague and she was helping this man with blank, or oh, my uncle went to blank and had great improvements. Just FYI, in case you ever needed that or needed this knowledge to help a friend out. Like, it's a nice indirect way of sliding that information to them, and then they do with it what they want. Okay. And then who knows, like a few visits later, they could be like, hey, Andrew, I'm so glad you brought that up because
I've been struggling with that's actually another good point. I haven't thought about bringing it up in that way. So
it's a gentle little
Yeah, yeah.
gentle nudge.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you suspect something.
Yeah.
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 So earlier you did mention that misconception of people thinking that pelvic floor therapy was just Kegels.
Right.
And that's, I think, is extremely important to elaborate on, because I did speak with a pelvic floor therapist. It was years ago, and I was asking advice on how to treat a patient, and she said just refer them, and I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then she kind of gave me a list of reasons why, and I was just
right.
like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just refer them then.
Yes.
And so, can you just elaborate a little bit more on that, and why you don't want to just, okay, let's get you doing some Kegels, let's get you doing, like any type of pelvic tilt, and try to hold, like, one of the terms that people might like,
Right.
think about holding your pee, don't let it go, and like how that can actually be the exact opposite that somebody needs.
Yes. Yes. Because someone might be leaking, but they might also be having issues that could be worsened by doing Kegels. So it's that giving someone Kegels without properly assessing their pelvic floor function is like giving someone calf raises without ever looking at their lower body. It could be the completely wrong intervention to give them, unnecessary or a waste and a waste of their time.
Yeah.
And maybe could make things worse. So we need to get us pelvic PTs need to get a full picture of how their bowel habits are, their bladder functioning, and their sexual health and function, because that really gives us more information on how their muscles are working. And then we are trained to internally assess those muscles too. So just like a general PT can palpate the quad or the rotator cuff, we can palpate the pelvic floor muscles and assess the function that way. So yes, it is very important to just refer and don't guess that someone just needs Kegels. And two, a lot of people think they are doing Kegels correctly and they're not. So, and we can actually affect what part of the pelvic floor is being engaged by our cues. And so we can get that specific. So if someone just starts telling all their patients to start holding in their pee, that could be the wrong part of the pelvic floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's.
So thanks for asking.
Yeah, definitely. Now I'm just like, let's get you referred out. I won't really even try. Whereas before, especially as a new PT, I kind of felt like, man, I should probably like brush up on these things. I should try to help as best as I can. But just kind of knowing what is and what isn't in your wheelhouse, I think is important. Yeah.
Yeah, and to just know that like any orthopedic stuff you are doing is probably helping their pelvic floor function, because any lower extremity and upper extremity activity is going to affect the pelvic floor. So like, rest assured, if you're doing your job in those areas, you're probably helping them anyway.
Yeah.
And then just let them know that there is more specific help out there, so they're not afraid. And usually a patient will come to me with more ease if their trusted ortho PT has already given them an idea of what pelvic PT can entail, and framed in a positive way.
Yeah.
Then the patient's like excited to see
Yeah.
a pelvic PT versus being referred when the clinician is like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I don't want to do what they're doing, so I'm going to send it to you. You know what I mean?
I don't know what's going on over there. I'm going to send you there, but I don't know what they're doing over there.
Like,
I don't know.
No.
Yeah. It's like, no, don't tell them that. You're scaring them.
Yeah.
It's not scary. It's not scary. Yeah. No, that's I think really good to point out though, because in some of the other episodes prior, me and Baron talk about how sometimes you get referred or you get someone as a referral from an MD or something like that, and they're not getting all of the education on what's going to happen at PT. They may just be, you're going to go to PT, they're going to make you exercise, it might hurt. And so then when they get to us, they're kind of very timid, and they're just like, well, are you going to make me do something that hurts? And well, that's not the goal. We're here to help you out a little bit and, make you a little more functional. But sometimes there's some discomfort involved, and we try to manage that as best we can. But just making sure that we're doing a good job when we do refer to give the clients a little bit of education on what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So like 100%. You said, when they come to you, they're excited about it. And they're just like, oh, I think this might be the missing piece versus,
what are you going to do to me?
So what's happening today? What do I, I'm not sure. And so I think that's a really good point, is just making sure us as medical providers, when we do refer out, just taking a second to let people know, hey, we're referring you here because of these things. This is what you should expect. It's not my specialty, but a lot of people have some good success there, just so then it kind of eases that stress a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Or have you tried pelvic PT before? And they're like, oh no, what? There's something that could help me?
Yeah.
Great.
That's usually the response that I get when I ask people about it. They're just like, I didn't know that this was an option for me. And you can kind of see their face light up a little bit. Yeah. Because they're just like, oh, wait. Someone will help me with that? And I'm like, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I'm surprised that you're here seeing me and not with over there with them. They're just like, oh, okay. I guess I didn't get referred to the right. I'm like, now we'll get you to the right people. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's a wise thing, that when you're doing PT, you're seeing patients daily. I think these are some of those intangibles that we tend to forget about, is because we're just doing it every day. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, take that extra second to educate that person, make them feel a little more confident, That's right. Yeah. Yes. There's something I've learned recently, is that a patient will benefit from more knowledge. Sometimes we don't want to scare them, so we dumb things down. But no, it's actually way more empowering for the patient if we educate them more on their options, like pelvic PT or something else. And then that is communicating to them that we trust that they'll make the best decision for themselves. So yes, it's all about teaching them what options are out there, and guiding them. Yeah. So what is something else that you feel people don't quite understand about pelvic floor or with pelvic health? And I kind of want to talk about progressions of exercises and things of that nature, because I think sometimes people might think, okay, this is what pelvic health is going to be, and these are some of the things that we're doing, but can you explain how you're able to actually do probably way more than just being on the table, doing table exercises, doing things like you mentioned Kegels earlier, and other exercises that may be more appropriate than those. But I mean, just, I guess, shedding some light on more progressed movements that you would do with people, or different exercises that you would do that they may not think they're going to get. But, For sure. Yeah. Because no one's going to see someone for shoulder pain and only treat the shoulder and only move the shoulder and only work on the shoulder. Eventually they are going to have that person doing bigger compound movements that involve the shoulder, but the shoulder becomes a much smaller part in the movement, right? Yeah. It is literally the same thing with the pelvic floor. So we might focus on the pelvic floor first, and that's where an internal assessment comes in, so that the clinician and the patient have a great idea of their coordination and power, endurance, all of that.
But once they have that down, that's step one. Now we'll start incorporating it into the movements they need to do better, like jumping or like squatting or running, going up the stairs, getting out of bed. So now we're not talking about the pelvic floor, but we are going to incorporate that in our cueing, in the total core coordination with the ab muscles and the diaphragm. So it's the same way any other clinician will progress things.
And so that's the thing that I think is also kind of cool. Like you just keep kind of building up, same way any other clinician will, and getting people back to their functional goals, same way. Which is something that I think in school too, when we're learning about it, we're kind of going, well, then what do you do? Do you like refer back to the other PT, or then do you do that? And it's like, no, like, let's go. Let's keep moving. Let's keep doing it. Like you want it to be able to jump and run and do these things. Let's work on it. Let's keep working on it. And then you have like those cues that you can fall back on to build that foundation. And so I think that overall approach is something that I think gets missed too at times. Yeah.
You're so right.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of that. Did you have any other like key points that you want to share with the folks out there listening? Any advice, any words of advice, anything that you would want them to know?
Yes, and thank you
that we haven't discussed yet?
Yeah, well, basically it's that if any of these symptoms felt familiar for you, you are definitely not alone. And so any pelvic health PT will just be happy that you got to them because you're in the right place, and there's no TMI in our offices. We're not there to shame you, judge you, or anything. We're literally there to help you be better in your daily function and cheer you on. So that's what I would say.
Well, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for folding towels. Your towels look better than mine. And you were doing most of the talking. I feel like I could have folded towels a little better, but I'm getting there.
They're comparable.
Yeah. No, look at those lines right there.
I told you they got to line up perfectly.
Yeah, they look good.
The finished product.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in on today's episode of Towel Talk. Stay tuned for another episode coming soon. Later, y'all.